In this video, I will teach you how to create a technology tree from scratch. It'll be useful for you if you're writing a story, working on a game, or just world building. But why? Why is a technology tree important for your world building? Well, technology shapes your societies. It changes how people work, it changes how they communicate, and it changes how they think. A well-crafted technology tree will show this progression. It will reveal the choices that a society makes and the different paths that it takes. Just think back to that first village that discovers fire. That simple discovery changes everything. They now cook food, they keep warm, they're able to scare away predators. And from there, they might go on to invent the wheel or build shelters. Each step leads to another step, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, creating a chain of development. A technology tree will capture these links and it will make the growth of your world logical and engaging. Technology trees enrich your narrative because your characters are going to interact with the technology around them. Their lives are going to be influenced by what's available. Technology trees create opportunities for conflict, innovation, and change. In this video, we'll start by diving into what a technology tree is and why it matters. Next, we'll explore the principles behind designing a technology tree. You'll learn about coherence, progression, and balance. These practical steps will guide you through creating your own tree, from setting milestones to mapping dependencies. Next, we'll categorize technologies, considering different ways to categorize, whether functional or cultural. We'll look at socioeconomic factors, ensuring that your tree reflects the resources and the power structures of your world. We'll balance innovation with tradition to help maintain believable progression. We'll also examine how technology trees fit into various genres, from fantasy to science fiction. These tools will help you in mapping out your ideas. We'll look at real world examples and case studies that illustrate successful implementations and common mistakes to avoid. And then we'll talk about things like integrating magic with technology, handling unpredictable advances, and addressing ethical implications. These practical applications in the end will show how to use your technology tree in your storytelling, in your world building, in your game design. So, first, what is a technology tree? Well, at its simplest level, a technology tree is just a map of civilization's progress. It shows how one idea leads to another, how simple tools can grow into complex systems. Each step on the tree is a milestone, a point where a society takes some kind of step forward. And the purpose of a technology tree is to organize ideas. It helps you to see how the technologies connect, how they depend on each other, and it will show that progress isn't random, that inventions build on what comes before. There's a chain of development that gives your world some logic. A technology tree will also guide you. It'll keep your world consistent. When you add a new technology, you can see where it fits. It prevents contradictions and gaps. Your world will grow in a way that makes sense, keeping readers, players, or others engaged. Now, before you start objecting, I hear you. I know that technology trees are a way of simplifying down some very complex processes of idea development across the world, and that some things could develop independently, some things could develop not in this node and line way. Nevertheless, technology trees can be very helpful for your world building. They can be very helpful for your writing, very helpful for your game development, because they'll help you to organize the way that societies develop, that civilization develops, that you can have this logical development over time. And history shows elements of what technology trees look like in games or writing, right? Look at the Industrial Revolution. You have steam engines leading to trains, which suddenly changes cities and trade. Each invention over time, and I know that there are intermediate inventions, but inventions open doors to other inventions. In fiction, technology trees bring worlds to life, like Star Wars, right? The technology ranging from simple blasters to complex starships. Video games also use technology trees. The prime example would be Civilization, where players choose the technologies to develop, and each choice affects the game's progress. Now, technology trees are made up of several parts, and understanding these components can help you build your own tree effectively. First, you have nodes or technologies. These are the building blocks of the tree. Each node represents a specific technology or invention. It can be something like the wheel or something like space travel. Nodes are the milestones that mark progress in your world. Each node should have a clear purpose. It should show how society benefits from it, describe what the technology does, how it changes life. You also have paths and dependencies. Paths show the order of development. These are those lines connecting the nodes, right? Showing which technologies lead to others. Dependencies indicate that one technology must exist before another can be developed. So you might need basic metallurgy before creating weapons, right? Dependencies will ensure that your tree is logical. They'll prevent jumping ahead without the necessary groundwork, and that structure will somewhat mirror real-world progress, making your tree a little bit more believable. You also have branching and specialization. So, branching allows for multiple directions of development. Not all societies follow the same path. Some might focus on medicine, others on engineering. Branching adds variety and depth to your technology tree. Specialization happens when a branch splits into more specific technologies. So, a general transportation node might branch into land, sea, and air transport. And this focus can create distinct pathways reflecting different societies' priorities and innovation. Okay, so that's just the basic stuff, right? Most of you have played Civilization. You know you have nodes, you know you have paths. But let's talk about some of the philosophical, theoretical, and practical considerations of constructing technology trees. First, I want to talk about the ideas of technological determinism versus social constructivism. When building a technology tree, you face a choice. Does technology shape society, or does society shape technology, or both? Technological determinism says that technology drives change. A new invention changes how people live, work, and think. Think of the printing press. It made books widespread, it changed education and religion. In your world, a discovery like fire or the wheel can set the course for everything that follows. Social constructivism argues that society drives technological change. People decide what to build based on their needs and values. Culture, politics, and economy guide inventions. For example, a society that values exploration might prioritize shipbuilding and navigation tools. In your world, the people's choices can shape the technology tree, and balancing these views can create more depth. You can show both how the technology influences the society and how society can direct technological progress. But let's talk about those practical design principles for technology trees. First, I want to talk about coherence and consistency. A technology tree has to make sense. Every step must lead logically to something else. You don't have room for random jumps or gaps. Coherence ensures that your world feels solid, feels like it follows from one thing after the other. So start with the basics, lay down the foundational technologies first. From there, build upward. Each new invention should have a clear reason for existing. It should solve a problem or fulfill a need that arose from earlier technologies or from society, from the world. Consistency is key. Maintain the same level of advancement uh, across similarly situated areas. If one region's advanced in medicine, others would probably reflect similar progress, or you will need to show why there's a lag. Avoid sudden spikes or drops in technology without explanation. Next, I want to talk about progression and pacing. So, technology has to grow at a believable rate. Too fast and it feels rushed, too slow and it stagnates. Find a rhythm that suits your world's narrative. Think about the societies, their needs, and resources. So, you might have a war torn land that innovates weaponry quickly, while a peaceful region could focus on art or agriculture, and that pace of advancement can reflect those priorities. Pacing also affects your stories. Rapid technological changes can drive conflict and excitement. Slow progress can build tension and highlight struggles. Balance moments of innovation with periods of steady development to keep your world dynamic and interesting. You also need to think about accessibility and complexity. So, your technology tree should be easy to understand but rich in detail. It needs to be accessible to you and your audience. So, start simple. Outline the main branches and the key technologies. From there, add layers of complexity. Show how different technologies interconnect and support each other. Avoid overcomplicating at these early stages. Let complexity grow naturally as the tree expands. Then provide clear descriptions. Each technology should have a purpose and an impact. Explain how it works and why it matters. This clarity will help others to grasp your world's advancements without getting lost in jargon or unnecessary detail. And balance is essential here. Too much simplicity can make your tree feel shallow, too much complexity can overwhelm. Aim for a middle ground where it's detailed enough to be intriguing, but straightforward enough to be navigable. And on that point, I want to talk about what I call the zoom level of a technology tree. How granular do you want to go? And your answer to that question should depend on the context of what you're doing. Whether you're writing a story, making a game, or something else, only build into your technology tree what you need for your world. Don't go into excessive granular detail with thousands of nodes if you don't need it. If you do need it, flesh out those nodes, flesh out those details. Again, you can have major jumps. You can go through intermediate technologies that you don't include as nodes on the tree if they're not necessary, right? If they don't serve some purpose in the gameplay. So the invention of circuit boards, is that something that is necessary to include as a node on your technology tree? Well, your answer to that isn't straightforward. It's going to depend on what you're doing and what you're working on. My point there is that your zoom level, how far zoomed in should the technology tree go, has to depend on the context. You also need to think about flexibility and adaptability. So a technology tree should evolve. Your world isn't static, and neither should its technology be. Allow some room for changes and unexpected developments. Design with flexibility in mind. Leave space for new branches and technologies that you might introduce later. That will let your world grow organically without constraining it into rigid structures of a tree that you develop at the very beginning. Adaptability means being open to revising your tree. As your story or game develops, you might find better ways to connect technologies or new ideas to incorporate. Don't be afraid to adjust your tree to better fit your evolving vision. Flexibility will also help you in responding to feedback. So, let's say that you're designing a game, you're getting feedback from players about technologies that are too weak or too strong or take too long to develop. If you have flexibility, if you're able to build in some adaptability within your tree, you'll be able to tweak it to ensure it remains engaging. With those design principles in mind, let's talk about the steps to designing a tree. First, you need to clearly establish your world's premise and setting. Before you build a technology tree, know your world. What's the foundation? Is it a land of magic, science, both? Define the core of your setting. That premise will shape every technology you create. Start simple. Outline the basic elements of your world. Maybe you've already done this and you can skip ahead, but who lives there? What do they need? What challenges do they face? What resources do they have available? These questions will guide the development of technologies that make sense for your setting. So, for example, a world with harsh winters might develop advanced heating systems early on. A society facing frequent wars might prioritize weaponry and defense technologies. The needs of your world will drive the technological progress. Next, define the technological milestones. Identify what the key points of progress in your world are. Those milestones mark significant advancements that shape society. Each milestone should have a clear impact on how people live, how they work, and how they interact. Begin with the foundational technologies. These are the basics that everything else builds on. Think of the will, the fire, the written word, and civilization, right? These simple inventions pave the way for more complex developments. Next, add intermediate technologies. These bridge the gap between basic tools and advanced systems. They show steady progress, they keep that tree moving forward. And finally, if it makes sense for your world, include those advanced technologies, the peak of your world's innovations. Each milestone should feel earned. It should result from the technologies that came before it, like a natural progression. Now, once you've got all of those elements listed out, it's time to start thinking about dependencies and progression paths. Maybe you've got a mind map, maybe you've just got a list, but a technology tree is not just a list of inventions, it's a network of connections showing how technologies lead to others. Mapping dependencies will ensure that your tree is logical. Start by linking each new technology to what came before and ask yourself what is needed to develop this technology. Does it require knowledge, resources, previous inventions? For example, to build a steam engine, you would need knowledge of metallurgy and mechanics, and without these, you wouldn't be able to invent it. These dependencies create a clear path of progression. You can use diagrams or charts to visualize these connections. That'll make it easier to see that flow of technologies and identify gaps or inconsistencies. And remember, as you're going forward, that building a technology tree is not a one-time task. It is going to be a process of iterative refinement and testing to ensure that it works well within your world in the context of what you're doing. Start by drafting that initial tree. Lay out those main technologies and their connections. Review it for logical consistency and completeness. Seek feedback from other people. Fresh eyes can spot gaps or inconsistencies that you might have missed and help maybe even offer new ideas to enhance your tree, whether that's from uh, readers, from play testers. Be willing to listen to the advice of others. Test your technology tree in the context of your story or your game. Does it support the narrative? Does it support the gameplay or the mechanics? Does it provide meaningful choices and consequences? Make adjustments as needed to better fit your world's needs and be open to change. As your world evolves, your technology tree needs to evolve too. Iterate and refine until everything feels right, and then iterate and refine again as you get more feedback. So remember, designing a technology tree should be a structured process. Start with a clear premise and setting, define your key milestones that mark progress, map out the dependencies to ensure logical progression, integrate it into your world elements for cohesion, and then refine and test your tree to perfect it. And by following those steps, you'll create a better technology tree that maps your progress and enriches your world building. Now let's talk about some of the ways that you might categorize technologies in your tree. First, you have by function, right? So it's things like military, civilian, medical. You can start by sorting technologies by their purpose. That'll make your tree easier to navigate. So military technologies could shape how societies defend themselves and wage wars. Civilian technologies could be those that improve everyday life, like tools for farming, building, communication. Medical technologies could be, things for saving lives or enhancing well-being, basic first aid, advanced surgery, biotechnology. Categorizing by function will help you see the different paths your technology can take and ensure that the branches serve a clear purpose and contribute to your narrative, your gameplay, or your world's overall development. You also can divide technologies by time periods. So you could have, say, early, middle, or advanced eras. Early being those that are simple and essential, like the fire, the wheel, basic tools. Middle being more complex developments like agriculture, metallurgy, early machinery. And advanced being more sophisticated technologies like electronics, space travel, artificial intelligence. Each era could represent a leap in knowledge and capability, and by organizing technologies into eras, you can create a clear timeline of that progress guiding your world's history. You also can categorize technologies in your technology tree by cultural or regional variations. Different cultures and regions could develop unique technologies based on their environment and their values. For example, cultural variations might show how beliefs and traditions influence technology. A society that values harmony with nature could develop sustainable energy sources. Another that prioritizes strength might focus on advanced weaponry. Regional variations could reflect the geography and resources of different areas. Coastal regions might excel in shipbuilding and fishing technologies. Mountainous areas could focus on mining and metallurgy. You could see this type of regional and cultural variation and categorization in games like Crusader Kings 3, right? Where you have cultural innovations, regional innovations. So, again, categorizing technologies is a step you can take to organize your technologies by function, by era, by culture, and create a more structured and detailed map of progress. And that approach will ensure that your technology tree reflects diverse forces shaping your world. Now, it's important to remember that technological advancement does not occur in a vacuum. The resources that are available shape the technologies that can be developed and how they are used. So, understanding what resources are available in your world will help you build a more realistic and organic technology tree. Start by listing the resources your world has, those natural resources. Think about what's abundant and what's scarce. Water, minerals, forest, energy sources like coal or sunlight all play a role. These resources determine what technologies can flourish. Next, think about the impact of geographic and political resource distribution. Where are the key resources? Who controls the key resources? Societies with access to vital materials often have an advantage. Okay, so we've gone over the design principles for building technology trees, some of the philosophical and practical implications and considerations of designing a technology tree. Let's talk about technology trees in different genres. First, you have fantasy worlds. In a fantasy world, technology is often intertwined with magic. So your technology tree must reflect this blend if there is magic in your world. Magic can be a source of power. It can drive innovations that would seem impossible in a purely technological setting. So start by deciding how magic and technology interact. Does magic replace certain technologies or do they complement each other? For example, instead of a steam engine, a society might use enchanted machinery that's powered by spells. Consider the role of magical resources. Maybe it's crystals or mana or other mystical elements that can serve as the fuel for technological progress. Societies rich in magical resources might advance faster in certain areas while others struggle without them. Or maybe those societies would follow a more normal path of development like we have here on Earth. Balance is key. While magic can simplify some technologies, it should also introduce its own limitations and challenges. Maybe certain spells are rare or require rare materials or have unpredictable effects. And that'll keep your technology tree grounded so that advancements still feel earned and meaningful within that magical framework of your world. In science fiction, technology is often at the forefront. Your tech tree should explore advanced and speculative technologies that push the boundaries of what's possible, like advanced space travel, allowing imaginative and forward thinking innovations. So start with near future technologies that are extensions of our current advancements. These could serve as the foundation for more speculative developments. For example, improvements in renewable energy could lead to sustainable cities and advanced transportation systems. As you progress, introduce more advanced technologies that transform society. Think about how breakthroughs in fields like genetics, nanotechnology, or quantum computing could reshape daily life, industries, and even human capabilities. Each step could build on those previous ones and create a clear path of progression from our current state. Consider the societal impact of those technologies. How do they change the way that people live, work, and interact? Your tech tree should reflect complexity, showing not just the advancements, but also the challenges that they bring along the way. Now, a steampunk tech tree will require a different approach. You could start here by defining where the historical divergence is from our world. What key event or discovery sets the steampunk world apart? Maybe the steam engine became the dominant power source, leading to different industrial advancements. And that divergence shaped the entire technology tree, creating a distinct path of development. You could focus on mechanical innovations like gears, cogs, intricate machinery as staples of that steampunk technology. Airships, automatons, each invention should reflect an aesthetic and functional quality of the genre. And these technologies will often have a handmade artisanal feel, contrasting with the sleek designs of other genres. You could incorporate alternative energy sources, so steam, clockwork, and other non electric power sources driving a technology tree, which leads to unique developments in transportation, communication, and industry. And go beyond just what's in those surface level steampunk approaches, right? To more immersive steampunk world where you have an expansive technology tree. Now, this might sound odd, but what about tech trees in a post apocalyptic setting? Start with the collapse point. What event caused the downfall of the previous technological civilization? That defines the starting point of your tech tree, which is often marked by scarcity and the need to survive. Technologies, at least initially, will focus on basic needs like shelter, food, and protection. As society begins to rebuild, technologies will emerge that address the new challenges of the post apocalypse. Those innovations might focus on things like scavenging or repurposing old technologies. Survival will often lead to unique technological paths. Communities might develop specialized tools and weapons to protect themselves or to create systems that support their new way of life. And these technologies will be practical and reflect the harsh realities of the setting. Taking a step back, the key point here is that different genres offer unique lenses through which you can design technology trees. Whether you're blending magic and machinery and fantasy, you're pushing the boundaries in science fiction, reimagining history and steampunk, or focusing on survival in post apocalyptic settings, each genre will shape technology trees in distinct ways. Understanding those genre specific needs and expectations will help you create a technology tree that's not just a list of inventions, but that will help advance your narrative, your setting, your world building, or your game design. If we look to good examples, successful examples of technology trees, we take away some key lessons. First, you have clear progression. A clear path of advancement helps users or readers understand the flow of technology. Second, you have balanced complexity. Too much detail can overwhelm, while too little can make the tree feel shallow. Balance your simplicity with depth and provide enough information to be meaningful without becoming cumbersome. Third, you have meaningful choices. Allow for strategic decisions to keep the technology tree interesting. Whether in games or stories, along the technological tree should have noticeable impacts, influencing the direction and outcome of progression. Fifth, you have integration with narrative or mechanics. Technology should serve the story or the game. It's not just a list of inventions, but it's a tool that drives plot, character development, world dynamics, or game mechanics. When technology is woven in, it will become essential rather than ancillary. Finally, you have adaptability. Successful technology trees can evolve. They allow for new branches, unexpected developments. So, what are some pitfalls in designing technology trees? Well, first, you have lack of coherence. A technology tree has to make sense. Avoid random advancements without logical connections. Each technology should have a reason for its existence and build naturally from what came before it, or show that it didn't have to build naturally from anything. So map out your dependencies clearly. Ensure each new technology relies on previous ones to the extent necessary. Second pitfall to avoid is overcomplication. Don't do more than is needed for your story or for your gameplay. Too many branches and details can confuse users or game players and dilute the impact of each technology. An overly complex tree can become unmanageable and lose its purpose, so simplify where possible. Focus on key technologies and their most important branches first, and only add complexity gradually and as needed. A third pitfall is to ignore context, so technology doesn't exist in a vacuum. Ignoring cultural, economic, and political context can make the tree feel disconnected from the world. Instead, you need to integrate technology with other world elements. Consider how culture, resources, and politics influence technological development. The fifth pitfall to avoid is neglecting user experience. Whether in games or narratives, the technology tree should be user friendly. If it's too hard to navigate or understand, it's only going to detract from the experience. Prioritize clarity and ease of use. You can use visual aids, clear descriptions, intuitive layouts to make sure that a technology tree is accessible and engaging. The final pitfall to avoid is overlooking impact. Every technology on your technology tree needs to have a clear impact on the world. Ignoring this can make a tree feel empty, purposeless, make the choices feel meaningless. So define the effects of your technology, show how they change society, economy, or daily life, and that will make your tree more meaningful and it will make it integral to your world. Now, I know I've been talking about logical progression, about consistency, clarity, usability, readability, legibility, right? Making sure that things follow one after the other. So, what I'm about to say will probably sound confusing, but I think it's important to mention that you need to allow for emergent technologies and unpredictable paths. Again, going back to what I said earlier, technology does not always follow those straight lines. There are emergent technologies, there are unexpected developments. And if you include those in your technology tree, it will add realism, it will add believability. So start with the basics that we talked about, but allow room for surprises. Let technologies evolve in ways that don't look planned from the start. This could mirror real world innovation where breakthroughs often come from unforeseen places. Encourage interdisciplinary advances. Combining fields like biology and engineering can lead to new inventions that wouldn't arise within a single discipline or along that same straight line, and those hybrid technologies can keep your tree dynamic and exciting. Embrace unpredictability. Let some paths diverge or take unexpected turns. That'll add variety and prevent your technology tree from becoming too rigid or formulaic. And then finally, show the impact. So, emergent technologies can shift the balance of power, create new industries, or solve old problems in novel ways. And those changes will keep your world evolving. Now, there are a lot of different ways that you could approach this, whether it's in writing or game design. In game design, particularly, I mean, I think there's room for having hidden elements of a technology tree, or having branches of a technology tree that aren't seen until you have different disparate parts of the tree developed. So there's a lot of ways to approach it, but allow for emergent technologies and unpredictable paths. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more world building tips, creative insights, and views into the development of the procedural map generator. If you have questions or want to share your technology tree projects, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear from you.